Hello and welcome to another video. Today we'll be taking a look at Operation Barbarossa. We'll look at the historical context, planning and objectives, the execution and initial success, Soviet response and resilience, winter and the turning point, human and material cost, political and strategic impact, social and cultural impact, historiographical perspectives, controversies and criticism, as well as some books and quotes. First up, let's start with historical context. Before Operation Barbarossa, Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union were bound by the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact of 1939, a non-aggression treaty that divided Eastern Europe into spheres of influence. Adolf Hitler's strategic goal was to destroy Soviet communism, acquire living space in the east for Germany, and access natural resources, especially in the Ukraine and the Caucasus. Despite the non-aggression pact, both Germany and the Soviet Union anticipated conflict. Germany began extensive military preparations and intelligence gathering in early 1941. Planning and objectives. Hitler issued Directive No. 21 on December 18, 1940, outlining the plan for Operation Barbarossa, aiming for a quick and decisive campaign to defeat the Soviet Union before winter. The primary objectives were to capture Leningrad in the north, Moscow in the center, and the resource-rich areas of Ukraine in the south within a few months. The plan involved a three-pronged attack: Army Group North to Leningrad, Army Group Center to Moscow, and Army Group South to Ukraine. The Blitzkrieg strategic relied on rapid movements, encirclements, and the destruction of Soviet forces. Execution and initial success. Operation Barbarossa commenced on June 22, 1941, with 3 million German troops, 600,000 motor vehicles, and 3,600 tanks attacking along an 8,100-mile front, marking the largest military invasion in history. The Germans achieved significant early successes, capturing vast territories, encircling and destroying large Soviet forces in battles such as Bialystok, Minsk, Smolensk, and Kiev. Despite some intelligence warnings, the Soviet Union was caught off guard. Initial confusion, lack of readiness, and Stalin's reluctance to believe in the invasion contributed to devastating Soviet losses. Soviet response and resilience. After the initial shock, Joseph Stalin took direct control of military operations, rallying the Soviet population for a total war effort, including the controversial use of Order No. 227. Not a step back. The Soviets implemented a scorched earth policy, destroying infrastructure, crops, and resources as they retreated to deny them to the advancing Germans. Despite severe pressure, Leningrad held out under siege, and Moscow fortified and defended under the leadership of General Zhukov, and Timoshenko withstood German advances by October 1941. Winter and the turning point. As the Wehrmacht advanced deeper into the Soviet territory, logistical challenges and supply lines became overstretched. Harsh winter conditions further hampered the German advance. The German assault on Moscow faltered in December 1941 due to Soviet counterattacks, severe winter weather, and overextended German forces. The Soviet counteroffensive pushed the Germans back, marking a critical turning point. The major German offensive aimed to capture Moscow but ultimately failed due to Soviet resilience and the arrival of fresh Soviet reserves, including Siberian troops well prepared for winter warfare. Human and material cost. Operation Barbarossa resulted in massive casualties. German losses included hundreds of thousands of troops and substantial amounts of equipment. Soviet casualties were even higher, with millions of soldiers and civilians killed, wounded, or captured. The invasion devastated Soviet agricultural and industrial regions, leading to severe disruptions in food production, transport, and war material manufacturing. Civilians in occupied territories faced atrocities, including mass executions, forced labor, and brutal repression under German occupation policies. Political and strategic impact. The invasion transformed World War II into a truly global conflict, solidifying the alliance between the Soviet Union and the United Kingdom and later the United States. Operation Barbarossa is often regarded as a major strategic blunder for Hitler. failed to achieve its primary objectives, leading to a prolonged and costly war on the Eastern Front. The invasion catalyzed Soviet industrial and military mobilization, leading to the relocation of factories east of the Urals, the massive production of war materials, and the eventual buildup of the Red Army for counteroffensives. Social and cultural impact. The invasion united the Soviet people in the Great Patriotic War, fostering a sense of national unity and resilience that played a crucial role in Soviet resistance and eventual victory. Soviet propaganda emphasized the brutal nature of the German invasion, using it to galvanize public support for the war effort and depict the conflict as a fight for survival against fascist aggression. The impact of Operation Barbarossa and the broader conflict on Soviet society has been extensively depicted in Soviet literature, film, and the art, often highlighting themes of heroism, sacrifice, and resilience. Historiographical perspectives. Soviet historiography emphasized the patriotic defense of the motherland and often highlighted Stalin's leadership, the resilience of the Soviet people, and the eventual triumph over fascism. Western historians analyze Operation Barbarossa as a crucial turning point in World War II, focusing on the strategic errors of the German High Command and the effectiveness of Soviet countermeasures. Contemporary historians examine a more nuanced view of the invasion, considering the roles of both German and Soviet leadership, the operational challenges, and the broader geopolitical implications. Controversies and criticism. Debate persists over the Soviet leadership's failure to adequately respond to intelligence warnings about the impending invasion, contributing to initial catastrophic losses. The brutal occupation policies and atrocities committed by German forces in occupied Soviet territories have been subjects of extensive historical scrutiny and moral condemnation. Stalin's pre-invasion purchase of the Red Army Officer Corps and initial reluctance to mobilize have been criticized for weakening Soviet defense at a critical juncture. Now for some books and quotes. Operation Barbarossa and Germany's Defeat in the East by David Stahel. It analyzes the planning, execution, and ultimate failure of the German invasion. Barbarossa, the German invasion of the Soviet Union, 1941, by Alan Clark. It provides a detailed account of the invasion's military aspects and its broader impact on World War II. Absolute War, Soviet Russia in the Second World War, by Chris Bellamy. It explores the Soviet experience during World War II, including the impact of Operation Barbarossa. Now for some quotes. When Barbarossa commences, the world would hold its breath and make no comment. Adolf Hitler. The Germans underestimated both the Soviet will to resist and the vastness of the Soviet Union, leading to their eventual failure in Operation Barbarossa. David Stahel. In the summer of 1941, the German Wehrmacht seemed invincible, but by winter of 1941, the myth of invincibility was shattered on the frozen plains before Moscow. Alan Clark. Operation Barbarossa was not just a military campaign, it was an ideological crusade that aimed at the complete destruction of the Soviet system. Chris Bellamy. The invasion unleashed a conflict of unprecedented scale and brutality, with consequences that would reshape the world order for decades. David M. Glantz. Operation Barbarossa was Hitler's greatest gamble and his most profound miscalculation. Jonathan House. The failure of Operation Barbarossa marked the beginning of the end of Nazi Germany, as it opened a front that would ultimately lead to its downfall. John Erickson. That was all for today. Thank you for listening.